Okay, about 11 o'clock, so we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Rose Clark, and I am currently serving an AmeriCorps term through the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa, which you'll hear more about later in this webinar. I'm working with the Natural Resource Work Groups in the University of Minnesota Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships. I'm working with work groups across the state in all 5 of the regions to connect and support their groups as they connect and support community-driven sustainability projects. This is a really neat position to be in. I get to travel around the state and hear things going on and all over the place. So this is episode 5 of our RSDP Natural Resource Webinar Series, which we hope will help work group members and board members to keep up with the goings-on in the university and with different projects happening in other regions as a kind of connector piece. We're hosting this series on a program called WebEx. If you're joining us on the computer, you should be able to see all of our slides here in the main screen, our little opener page right now, and then as we go through our presentations, you'll see those. I would like to direct your attention to the right-hand side and should see a chat window, and that's where I invite all attendees to submit their questions. I will read those out after our presentations and we can answer them the best we can. If you are joining us over the phone, you can also submit questions to my email. That's rmclarke, C-L-A-R-K-E, @umn.edu. And yeah, we'll try to address all the things that everyone is wondering about. For today's webinar, we will be hearing from Christine Holland. She's the Executive Director of the Fargo-based nonprofit RiverKeepers, dealing with the Red River and connection to the community. And from myself, as the Conservation Corps member, trying to set people up with a better understanding of what the Conservation Corps is and how we might use the Conservation Corps connection in our own work and with our partners. So yeah, that'll be our day today. At the end of the webinar, so there will be a short 2-question survey. It's a requirement for my Conservation Corps position. So if you're joining on WebEx, please keep your eye out for that and answer when that comes up. It should pop up on your screen, so it'll be pretty evident when it happens. And I really thank you in advance for your feedback. This session is being recorded right now, and we will put it up on our RSDP webinar homepage. The link is at the bottom of that opening screen. The web address is z.umn.edu/RSDP webinar, all one word is that last one. Yeah, so you can find it there if you want to watch it again or if you want to share it with other people. And I'll also try to put on there more of the opportunities that are mentioned in the webinar as we go. So yeah, welcome. This morning we're going to be starting hearing from Christine. Again, she's the Executive Director of RiverKeepers. RiverKeepers grew from a desire to rediscover the Red River's heritage and to teach people to again appreciate the Red as a living river. She'll be talking to us today about the Northwest supported project, Red River Valley Restore, which stands for Restoration, Education, Science, Training, Outreach for Regional Education. It's a collaborative initiative with the Moorhead area public and private schools, RiverKeepers, Minnesota State University, Moorhead, City of Moorhead, and other regional watershed resource organizations. So Christine, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. You can share your screen and get started.
All right. Thank you, Rose, for inviting me today to talk about our project. As you said, it's the Red River Valley Restore Collaborative, which stands for Restoration, Education, Science Training, and Outreach for Regional Educators. This project as you said, included people from Minnesota State University Moorhead in terms of the Buffalo River Science Center and also their biology department. And then the Moorhead area schools had their Director of School Improvement and Accountability, she's the person that we work with for our field trips and really trying to connect that to curriculum. And then we also were able to have their service learning coordinator at the table as well, which was really great. We actually work with Moorhead schools probably more often than any other schools because of that service learning coordinator. So that is a really great piece that Moorhead has there. I wish everybody had a service learning coordinator in their district to help make that connection with the community partners. Just a quick summary of the project. It was integrating Earth Partnership Watershed Stewardship curriculum, which is a place and project-based activities, into a summer workshop for educators and community partners. Our hope was that it would lead to more service learning projects for riparian restoration, habitat restoration, and stormwater best management practices in the community. Just a quick background on RiverKeepers. We're a 26-year-old nonprofit with a mission to advocate for sustainable use of the Red River of the North, primarily in Fargo Moorhead. We do a lot of that through education of youth and community members, and also through engagement of over 900 volunteers in projects annually. You'll hear about some of the projects later, but a few of the other ones include canoe and kayak races, just to get people out onto the river so that the community can realize the river is a safe place to go recreate. Youth fishing clinics, because it's been proven in other communities that if you use a resource, you'll take better care of it and become interested in the issues around the resource. We also do coordinate volunteers to do bank cleanups and on the river cleanups. And then we also have a t-shirt to tote project, because when we're doing riverbank cleanups, we find a lot of plastic bags stuck in the banks and the trees, and as you know, they just shred or we can't reach them because they're too high up. So we encourage the community to use what we all have a lot of in our drawers, which is excess t-shirts, and turn them into totes instead of using plastic bags. So one of the project goals was to complement and strengthen existing watershed water stewardship, education, and sustainability initiatives in the Red River Valley. There was a need for enhancing public awareness of watershed and stormwater issues, land and water dynamics, and public participation in decision-making. So the Minnesota State University Moorhead's Regional Science Center and RiverKeepers have been partnering in the past with public and private schools from Moorhead, Dilworth, Glendon Felton, Lake Park Audubon, Barnesville, Hawley, and Fargo to engage those students in some kind of environmental learning. The Buffalo River Science Center mostly works with third graders in Minnesota, where those students come and do prairie restoration at the center, which is along the Buffalo River. They also grow plants in the classroom and then transplant those out at the center later. And then RiverKeepers works with about 2,000 area fourth grade students at the Red River Water Festival in the fall. And students come there to learn anything about water, from history of water, water properties, how rivers move, non-point source pollution, how you need water to stay hydrated, so pretty much everything about water. And they're all hands-on activities, mostly from Project WET, which stands for Water Education for Teachers. And it's tied back into their land and water curriculum at school, so it's not just a fun day where they're coming to do fun things. They are fun things, but they're also getting reinforced back in the classroom later. So we're trying to figure out a way to make those connections between those two field trips stronger, and then also with the curriculum, so it's making some kind of continuation and not duplicating efforts. Another one of the goals was to provide Earth Partnership Water Stewardship, which is, as I said earlier, a project and place-based professional development into curriculum, and also be able to let non-formal or informal environmental educators also use that curriculum as well. Our initial intent was to train teams of teachers from area schools and then follow up in the classroom with service learning projects later in the year. That would be either ecological restoration or some kind of water stewardship in the community. And we ended up with with only one team of teachers, so that made it a little bit more difficult. But we did have a week-long Red River Watershed Stewardship Workshop last summer, June 15th to the 19th. Part of it took place at the MSU Regional Science Center. Part of it was at Robert Ast, and then we also went out to do some prairie walks and actual service projects in and of themselves. We really, again, I said we're trying to make that connection between the curriculum, the field trips, and then the service learning projects, so it comes in full circle to establish restorations and rain gardens on school grounds or nearby community sites. Especially in Fargo Moorhead, a lot of the students know the Red River goes through the community, but they don't necessarily know or have been down to the river to see it, which always really surprises me, even after 20 years. There's a new need in the community because we have a lot of flood bio properties in the riparian area. So there's a lot of opportunity to be planting trees and native grasses in those areas. And we really like to have public participation so that they understand the connection between stormwater and the health of the river, which is our drinking water source in Fargo Moorhead and West Fargo. So we ended up with 7 teachers from Moorhead Public Schools, 5 from Robert Ast, which was great. The energy where we had more than one teacher in a school was exponentially greater. We had 1 from Moorhead High School, 1 from the Red River Area Learning Center, 1 from Clara Barton in Fargo, 1 from Oak Grove, which is a private school in Fargo, and 1 rural Comstock, Minnesota resident who is actually teaching in Wyoming, but is interested in restoration on his property and also integrating those activities with his students in Wyoming. We also had informal educators participate in that. We had 2 MSUM student interns who helped coordinate the workshop right before, like the week before, helped us gather supplies and doing some logistical things, and then helped during the workshop. And then we also had 2 RiverKeepers interns and the Cass County Soil Conservation District's urban conservationist. And that person was new to her position, so it really offered some useful watershed information, resources, and connections for her. The MSUM students, the feedback from them was that they also got a lot out of it in experience in coordinating workshop, working with local teachers, and actually participating in the activities as well. The teacher benefits were that they got 2 professional development credits through NDSU. We were lucky enough to have both the Fargo and Moorhead Public School districts at the table with us while we were planning the workshop, and they paid stipends to their teachers to attend because they also are encouraging their teachers to incorporate this kind of stuff into their curriculum so that the field trips are more meaningful and to get their students out into the community. So it was great to have those connections with those public school officials and to realize that they're not just saying they're going to let their students come to the water festival. They really are supportive and want to continue that learning and connections to the community. And then, of course, they'd also receive the Earth Partnership curriculum. So in return, we expected them to actively participate in the 5-day workshop. You can see on the right there, they actually had to go out into the field and participate in some of the activities. It wasn't just a sit in the classroom and watch presentations kind of workshop. They had to keep a reflective journal, develop a team action plan, which was difficult when we really only had one team there, but we tried, and we'll continue to work with those teachers. Each team participated in one winter team meeting, so that was also a little bit difficult. We met with them mostly via email. We didn't actually get to do an in-service project just because it was hard to fit into their already busy schedule. And then each team carry out at least one service learning project, such as a rain garden or a restoration project. And while they were at the workshop, we wanted them to be able to understand land and water interactions in our watershed, be able to implement a habitat restoration or rain garden project, which would be integrated into their core curriculum, and also enhance their teaching methods so that the push right now really is towards experiential place-based projects, not just sitting in the classroom learning about a river in another country or another even part of the country. So that's one reason why the school district officials were really interested in this project, was that it was really incorporating students out into the community and into their curriculum. Some of the presenters at the workshop were Rick Hall, who's retired from Earth Partnership at the University of Wisconsin. He really led the workshop and coordinated that part. Some of our guest speakers were Dr. Rich Pemble, who is a retired MSUM biology professor who knows all about prairies and is very interesting. So we actually went out onto the prairie and identified some plants and talked about prairies. Stan Hansen from Houston Engineering, who came in and talked about some of the engineering behind rain gardens and why rain gardens are important. Chuck Fritz with the International Water Institute came and gave us a background on the Red River watershed, how watersheds work, management of watersheds. Then he also talked about some of his programs, which include High School River Watch, which is water quality monitoring, River of Dreams, and River Explorers. RiverKeepers talked about some stormwater issues in the community and some of the best management practices on how to address them. And then we also led some of the service projects such as the tree planting and water quality monitoring. And then Tony Borman with the MSUM Regional Science Center really worked on some of the prairie and restoration topics as well when we were out at the Science Center. So you can see that instead of just listening to presentations, participants walked through the prairie while listening to the presenter. They actually did the activities themselves, and we had them actually plant trees so that they could see what it would be like if they brought their students to a tree planting event, and had them do some water quality monitoring sampling from a bridge with the equipment that we use to grab water samples and get immediate feedback on some of those parameters. Another one of the project goals was to integrate existing and potential field trip experiences. In particular, the ones I talked about at the Regional Science Center was the third graders and the fourth graders at the Red River Water Festival. This was a little bit harder to quantify, but we do know that the Red River Area Learning Center has made several visits to the MSUM Science Center with their students. And Claire Barton, we got feedback from them saying that they did utilize some of the Earth Partnership activities as a part of the Water Festival preparation with their students. Another one of the project goals was to carry out at least one service learning project in the spring. So these service learning projects, as mentioned before, could be rain gardens, repairing restoration, habitat restoration, stormwater management of some sort. So the teachers and the students really figured out kind of what they wanted to do with support, obviously, from RiverKeepers and the Science Center. So Oak Grove students did storm drain marking around their school. Moorhead High and Robert Asp planted a nursery planting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that for future plans. The Claire Barton teacher was pregnant, so spring didn't really pan out as planned for her. So we'll continue to work with her and hopefully do some more things next year. And then the Red River Area Learning Center, as I said, incorporated some of the activities and site visits into their curriculum, but they're moving to a new location this year, so they wanted to wait and maybe incorporate a rain garden and rain barrel into their new site after they had been there and could do some visiting around the site a little bit. Some of the connections with the University of Minnesota, of course, was the funding from the grant, which helped us be able to pull the workshop together. We utilized Stephen Carlson to produce pre- and post-surveys of the teacher participants, and one of the evaluation results showed that there was a strong change with 22 items, such as their knowledge of watersheds, riparian restoration, native plants, macroinvertebrates, prairies, etc. There was also a rain garden consultation at the University of Minnesota-Crookston, and we contacted a master gardener to see if they'd be interested in helping us in the future with a rain garden at Robert Asp. Some of the outcomes, there definitely is a stronger connection between Moorhead Schools Administration, the MSUM Science Center, and RiverKeepers, and I think that will just continue to grow. I knew we had support from Moorhead Schools for the Water Festival. They actually make all of their fourth grade students' classes come to the Water Festival. That's coming from an administration, but it was really nice that they were at the table to help plan this, and we're really interested in incorporating more service learning projects and into their curriculum. And then in part because of RiverKeepers' history with providing past quality service learning projects, but timely for the work that this project, we got a certificate of appreciation from Moorhead Community Education at their spring recognition event for our efforts in trying to connect curriculum, field trips, and service learning projects with their students and into the community. So in the future, Robert Asp really wants to build a rain garden at their school. There was some hiccups this spring just with the way schools sometimes work, trying to get maintenance on board with actually having a rain garden and who's maintaining it. PTAC actually has given some grant or matching funds for some plants, which is where that nursery got started. And Clay County Soil and Water Conservation District is interested in cost sharing some of that as well, but they need an agreement signed by the school. And so still trying to figure out some of those logistics and if that can happen or not. So hopefully this fall, we'll be able to actually build a rain garden in the back on school grounds there. And that area right now is just kind of a dirt mess, so that would really add a lot to that school and be able to incorporate some of their curriculum into that rain garden then. I think we've got some better connections with teachers and especially, as I said, those administrators for future service learning projects. And this project, along with the Ellen Hopkins Nature Play Area and the Fargo project, have really started a momentum in the community to incorporate students into place-based community and nature activities, which I think is pretty exciting. And then the communication with the MSUM Science Center and RiverKeepers, I think, is stronger so that we won't be duplicating efforts and can really work together, because even though we are sort of talking about similar things, we're not talking about the same rivers, and we both want the same thing. We just want youth to get out and enjoy nature and understand the rivers in their own backyards. So with that, I think I'm done, and I will pass the ball back to Rose to see if there's any questions. I think
Thank you, Christine.
Rose. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, my little headset is a little scratchy, but if it's working, that's good. We did get a few questions come in. Let's see, the first one is, when you said the push is for local and place-based, Linda was wondering if that's a Moorhead School District priority or a larger kind of community feeling. Where do you think that
I think from the Moorhead School District, and it might be other educators as well. I just, Missy was the one I had been talking to at the school, so.
Awesome. Very nice. That's a great thing to kind of build in your community. So that's really important. Someone, Erin in the Southeast, also said Southeast RSDP worked with Recall, bringing the Earth Partnership Restore curriculum to Southeast Minnesota and statewide, restoring school properties and using as labs for learning. So neat other efforts kind of in the same line. And then I was wondering, you might have mentioned this and maybe I missed it. It was really neat to hear how important that the trainings have been to the teachers and how there's been a strong change in their knowledge. Did you say that the teachers, are they there voluntarily or were they kind of asked to go by the school district? How do you choose the teachers that you work with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I should have mentioned that. We really tried to concentrate on the 3rd and 4th grade teachers just because that's where the field trips currently are. But as is my case often, I guess, in new projects, we were a little bit late in really recruiting some of those. That's why we also ended up with some high school teachers and others outside of 3rd and 4th grade. But the school districts really invited the 3rd and 4th grade teachers first and then opened it up to others as it fit into their curriculum as well.
Nice. That's great. Well, thank you. That's really good work, and I'm excited to hear what happens with the rain garden motivation and all those things. So thank you.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I will. And I've been following the Ellen Hopkins project too. That's another Northwest RSDP funded project, and it's kind of just wrapping up the design element of it. That's got a really exciting future as well. So lots of cool things happening.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on now to my piece of the webinar. I'm sharing today about the Conservation Corps. I hope that I can kind of share a little bit about the history of the organization, kind of clarify what Conservation Corps and AmeriCorps do, and then also bring up ideas for how we could incorporate Conservation Corps positions either more into RSDP's work or into our partners' work. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. All right. So I'm using a presentation that was shared at my orientation that I found really helpful. We'll kind of go through these different pieces. So history of the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa lies in the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was organized in 1933, just kind of around the time of the Great Depression, by President Franklin Roosevelt, and it was a public work relief program with an eye towards conservation and development of our natural resources. But I really like this quote from him in the presentation. It says, "More important than the material gains of this program will be the moral and spiritual value of such work." So kind of a focus on developing the people and assuming that in turn will help strengthen our nation and our community as a piece. So, yeah, like the CCC, there's signs of it all over. Every state I've been to, there's Conservation Corps projects that you can visit. That ties in kind of to the GI Bill, which started in 1942 for soldiers coming back from the war and getting education money for their service. So those kind of foundation principles led to, in 1957, the Student Conservation Association, which is still around. It serves students from 15 and up who want to be involved in conservation. I think they mainly do field work and things like that. 1961, the Peace Corps was founded, that kind of 2-year block of service for people to go overseas and help assist other communities as they get started and improve their communities. In 1964, the VISTA program was started. That has a focus on economic and opportunity equality in the U.S. So the idea of domestic service and addressing our problems that we have here. Youth and Young, Youth and Young Adult Conservation Corps came soon after in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And in 1967, the first state-funded conservation corps conservation corps were organized, and Minnesota was one of those kind of first states to make up that model. So Minnesota Conservation Corps, they partner with organizations like the Department of Natural Resources. A lot of the Minnesota Conservation Corps field crews work with the DNR. There are different service networks around now too. In 1944, AmeriCorps was started. That's part of my position with RSDP. And AmeriCorps, one of their goals is to help others and meet critical needs in the community. So again, that idea of domestic service, addressing issues in our local communities. And with AmeriCorps came that tie into a sort of GI Bill setup where AmeriCorps volunteers get a cost of living stipend in place of income. It's supposed to help support the service person while they are serving their year term. And yeah, so that's a great resource. It also includes student loan deferment. So for example, I put my student loan payments on hold while I'm doing this position, and at the end it will start back up, and AmeriCorps will pay the interest that's accumulated during the year. So basically it's just a little freeze on your payment of your loans. And then at the end as well, if you complete the required number of hours of service, you receive an education award to help pay for your loans or to pay for future school. And that's kind of just set aside for you to use when you need. Yeah. So moving forward, the Minnesota Conservation Corps became a nonprofit around 2003. Conservation Corps of Iowa was joined with Conservation Corps of Minnesota to form Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa in 2010, kind of acknowledging the similar efforts and neighborly use of resources, and I think that's also extended somewhat into Nebraska as well. We have different people working in that region as well. So the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa, their basic mission is to provide hands-on environmental stewardship and service learning opportunities to youth and young adults, usually ages 18 to 25. There's some younger programs, and some people like me are slightly out of that range. So it provides service learning opportunities while accomplishing natural resource management, conservation, and emergency response work. And they kind of approach that through 3 different basic tenets. To public service, we serve the community through collaborative projects that are for the common good. Professional development, we provide intensive training and personal development, environmental education, safety and technical work skills in order to develop personal responsibility, a strong service ethic, and an increased awareness of environmental stewardship. And then the third piece is social and environmental impact, striving to leave a legacy of positive improvements to the environment, our communities, and our Corps members through our collective service every day. So those are pretty strong strong goals, and I think really worthwhile ones that it's pretty great. All the people that I've worked with through the Conservation Corps, they embody those goals really well and are just very supportive in those efforts. So within the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa, there are 3 types of programs. The first is the AmeriCorps Field Crews. The second is Individual Placements Program, which is what my position falls under. And then the third is youth programs, which are geared more towards the 15 to 18 age range. So within that youth programs, there's the Summer Youth Corps, which is a summer session of 15 to 18-year-old youth from across Minnesota. They're paired with some adult crew leaders and spend 2 4-week summer sessions making sure our natural resource areas are cleared out. So that program sees 144 youth per year. Pretty powerful. It's a residential program. They're not allowed to have electronics, which is hard for teenagers these days. And they immerse youth in a diverse work experience in social settings, just kind of setting the stage for that civic engagement and also professional development and experience in the field. Interesting fact, about 15 to 20% of the people in this youth program are hearing impaired. I'm not sure if they do outreach in those communities or if it's just been a natural piece for a natural polling of that group, but that's pretty awesome. The other youth program is the Youth Outdoors program. These are also teenagers. They're specifically from the Twin Cities. They're smaller groups, and they have a fall and a spring semester of this program. This program sees about 160 youth per year, and they include the I Can series, I Can Camp, I Can Hike. There's a number of different kind of educational and outdoor experiences. Eco Rangers, Bridges Project, and Restoring Relations. So these are all kind of pieces within that Youth Outdoors program. So then there's the Individual Placements program. Again, that's what mine is. My roommate Hannah this summer, she's part of the Conservation Academy program, and that is specifically working with soil and water conservation districts in greater Minnesota to get experience in that field. They serve a 3-month service term, a summer program. They complete projects that relate to local land and water use. I know Hannah's very excited to drive the tractor later this summer. So they get a lot of experience interacting with landowners, assisting with project planning, overseeing project implementation. In Hannah's case, she's working in Marshall County up here in northwest Minnesota to map and survey ditches along through the state, tying into water quality and I think the buffer law, that sort of activity. So then we come to my position, year-round individual placement. This year, I believe there are 20 of us serving mostly in Minnesota, a couple in Iowa, maybe one in Nebraska. I have to check with Brian, my supervisor. But we serve an 11-month term, partnering with the host site. So in my case, RSDP, and Linda Kingery is my supervisor here. And there's a wide range of projects. So in my case, I am doing a lot of communication. I'll talk about that in a little bit. There are also, I think, 6 individual placement members with the Home Energy Squad in the cities. They're going into houses. The picture on the right is a member of the Home Energy Squad. They go into houses. They take an assessment of their energy use, test how hot their water is, and what kind of light bulbs they have, and make changes or empower the homeowners to make changes to reduce their energy bills. There's also a good group of folks with the Minnesota DNR going around the state and also working with social media. There's someone placed with the Monarch Joint Venture on the Twin Cities campus, working in their lab and in the field there. There's someone else working with the University of Minnesota Extension in Clopay, someone working with the YMCA program. There's just a pretty wide array. So it's a great program, and I think I really appreciate having the 11 months because it really gives you a chance to get to know the organization that you're working with and to make an impact. So it's pretty awesome. The last kind of segment of the Conservation Corps is the field crew. So there's the seasonal field crews that are summer employees, basically. Yeah, they do good work in a short season. And then there's the full-time field crews that work throughout Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri on different crews, and they complete different natural resource projects that range from pretty basic to very technical. It's a good way to get experience as a young professional or someone interested in this field. So they have a pretty wide impact as well, lots of projects. So from there, I wanted to share a little bit about, sorry, I need to get back to the window. I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing here in my position and with RSDP in particular, and also share how to get a volunteer if you're interested in that. So my position was, the need for my position was identified last May, I've heard, during the SEC meeting in 2015, and I think people were feeling like there was a need to hone in on a better approach for the natural resource work groups. I think some of them were feeling a little bit lost with how wide a scope natural resources is, and the feeling that you know, the other three focus areas of the partnerships kind of are very closely tied to natural resources, but we're not really sure how to differentiate. So in about August 2015, Linda and others applied to host a year-long individual placement Corps member. And in 2015, the Corps member that was stationed here in Crookston was Allison, and she was technically working with Project Go, which we had a webinar where Sarah of Project Go presented. So Allison had worked partly with Project Go, but had also become more familiar with RSDP and had done some work with the natural resource work groups in particular. And so I think that was a little bit of taste of what a Conservation Corps member can do, which then inspired RSDP to apply for a full-time individual placement Corps member to serve with RSDP directly. So in September 2015, the job was posted. I applied. I got it at the end of 2015 and started in January. And again, my position is an 11-month term. Couple things. Brian Hubbard, I put his information at the bottom of this slide here, and you can also find him on the Conservation Corps website. He's my program coordinator. He's kind of the one who mentors me from a Conservation Corps side and does check-ins, makes sure that I get my stipend every month. He helps to keep me on track for my hours. With my position, the full year position, I have to get 1,700 hours of service by mid-December. And I'm on track for that and more. That's kind of the minimum. Okay asked a question. He asked if there's a specific dollar figure for the award or loan payment. And for the year term, 1,700 hours of service, I'm going to get about $5,500 for my education award. So that's pretty powerful. And then again, they'll also pay all the interest that's accrued on my deferred student loan from when I got my degree at Oregon State. So it's a pretty substantial award. During the year, it's not a ton of money, the monthly stipend, but it is enough to get you by, and it's an awesome opportunity to learn kind of in the program. So I really appreciate it. It's really great. I also wanted to mention really quick the distinction between AmeriCorps and Conservation Corps, because I think there's a lot of confusion. AmeriCorps is, I think of it as a large umbrella, and Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa is one piece under that. But through AmeriCorps, there are lots of other different programs that are generally more on a national scale, or might be like a sub piece. So there's a distinction between the two. That's good to note. So in my particular role this year, how it's kind of evolved, when I was hired, one of my core job description missions was to support the natural resource work groups across the state. And what that has turned into is communication as a key. So during my year, I am making it a priority to attend meetings, as many as I can, in the regions and to the boards. On Monday I was in Cloquet, on Tuesday I was in Brainerd. I was able to meet with the boards and one of the work groups in those regions. So it's great to be there and see faces and hear what's actually happening with projects. So that's a really important piece of my work. I also have been trying to write periodic kind of natural resource email updates, sharing information that I hear about or is sent to me with all of the natural resource work groups and any board members that are interested. I've been facilitating this webinar series to try to connect people with what's going on at the university level, what's going on in the different regions. I have been spending some time supporting individual projects. Like I mentioned earlier, Christine, I visited the nature place-based design process in Moorhead. I am a member of this kind of newly formed Crookston Bike Coalition, working towards expanding bike access and education in Crookston, leading the community garden, and also helping out with the Red Lake River Corridor Enhancement Project, their board. And yeah, I just kind of try to help support the natural resource work groups however is needed, and that really varies between the different regions. They're all in a different place and kind of approach the work group task of recruiting and vetting these natural resource projects. They all approach it really differently, which is really great to see, and it allows me to kind of cross-pollinate ideas. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the November SCC meeting, which will be centered on natural resources, and I'll have a big hand in organizing that, so that'll be great. If you are interested in learning more about Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa, which I recommend you do, go check out www.conservationcorps.org. They have more information about their mission, their history. There's a regular blog that different Corps member contributors add to. There's specific information about their accomplishments, how many people they reach, how much acreage they serve with their field crews, different things like that. There's postings of the job openings available for the youth, again, mostly 18 to 25-year-old. Some of those youth programs go down to 15. And there's also more information on hiring crews or service members. If you're part of the Soil and Water Conservation District, there's information about how to host one of those summer individual placement apprentices. And there's more information, contact information on the regional staff for whatever questions you might have. And again, if you do have other questions, contact me or Linda or my supervisor, Brian. We can answer your questions for you. Yeah, so I'd like to invite any other questions that anyone has on that. Hopefully it was pretty clear. It's a really neat organization, and I'm really thankful that I found this position. So. Well, cool. If we're all wrapped up then. I just want to thank Christine again for sharing about Red River Restore Project. I wanted to remind people that our next webinar will be on July 21st. And right now it's looking like, I'm still working out the lineup, but it's looking like it'll be kind of an accumulation of the sustainability coordinators from all of the different U of M campuses, and they have different programs and things going on their campuses that they are looking to share. So it'll be a really good conversation, and a lot of really awesome personalities too. So it'll be a great time. I just opened up the poll. I mentioned at the beginning this is a requirement for my Conservation Corps service as part of assessing how much impact we're having. So if you just wouldn't mind answering those two questions, how much did you learn today, and what content was the most useful or interesting to you, that would help me out a lot. So thank you. Christine, do you have plans to go out on the river anytime in the next week or so?
We have Midwest Kids Fest tomorrow, and our golf scramble on Monday, and a paddling excursion on Tuesday, as well as a police community picnic. So we'll be outside anyway.
Nice. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it will be good.
Oh, I did have another question for you because I thought it was really timely. I was in the car yesterday with a friend of mine here in Crookston who is from Crookston, and I mentioned how excited I was to go inner tubing on the Red Lake River, and she was kind of silent. And so I asked her if she'd ever gone swimming in the Red Lake River, and she was like, no. So I guess I was just wondering kind of what that hesitation, and you mentioned it in your presentation too, what does that do to? Is it just people not thinking of it as a place to swim, or is it?
Yeah. So in the Red River, they used to swim before there was swimming pools, but there are 8 dams on the Red River, and 7 of them have now been retrofitted with a rock slopeway. But before that, there was undertow, so people died at those dams. So people have been told to stay away from the river for years and years. And then also because it's muddy, people think it's polluted.
Interesting. Okay.
So those are the 2 biggest things RiverKeepers tries to get across to people is there's no undertows and the water quality is much better than you think.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that, because I think that it sounds great. Yeah, there's that maybe historic apprehension, but I'm excited you and others are working to kind of dispel that. So, looks like we've got almost all of the responses in, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Sweet. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and hope to see you on July 21st for our next webinar. So thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah, thanks.